Superman is a 2025 American superhero film based on the eponymous character from DC Comics. Written and directed by James Gunn, it is the first film in the DC Universe, DCU, and a reboot of the Superman film series. David Corenswet stars as Clark Kent/Superman, alongside Rachel Brosnahan, Nicholas Hoult, Edi Gathegi, Anthony Carrigan, Nathan Fillion, and Isabella Merced. In the film, Superman faces unintended consequences after he intervenes in an international conflict orchestrated by billionaire Lex Luthor, Hoult. Superman must win back public support with the help of his reporter and superhero colleagues. The film was produced by Gunn and Peter Safran of DC Studios. Development on a sequel to the DC Extended Universe, DCEU, film Man of Steel, 2013, began by October 2014, with Henry Cavill set to reprise his role as Superman. Plans changed after the troubled production of Justice League, 2017, and the Man of Steel sequel was no longer moving forward by May 2020. Gunn began work on a new Superman film around August 2022. In October, he became CEO of DC Studios with Safran, and they began work on a new DC universe. Gunn was publicly revealed to be writing the film in December. The title Superman: Legacy was announced the next month. Gunn was confirmed to be directing in March 2023, and Corenswet and Brosnahan, Lois Lane, were cast that June. The subtitle was dropped by the end of February 2024, when filming began in Svalbard, Norway. Production primarily took place at Trilith Studios in Atlanta, Georgia, with location filming around Georgia and Ohio. Filming wrapped in July. The film's influences include the comic book All-Star Superman, 2005-2008, by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. Superman premiered at the TCL Chinese Theater on July 7, 2025, and was released by Warner Bros. Pictures in the United States on July 11. It is the first film in the DCU's Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. The film has grossed $579 million worldwide, making it the seventh highest grossing film of 2025, and received mostly positive reviews. Critics found it to be fun, colorful, and earnest, although some felt it was overstuffed, while the performances of Corenswet, Brosnahan, and Hoult were praised. Plot: Clark Kent/Superman stops the nation of Boravia from invading the neighboring country of Jarhanpur, and warns Boravian President Basil Gurkos to leave Jarhanpur alone. In Metropolis, Superman is defeated for the first time by a meta-human called the Hammer of Boravia, and flees to his fortress of solitude in Antarctica with the help of the superpowered dog Krypto. They are followed by Angela Spica/the Engineer, an ally of billionaire Lex Luthor. Superman's robots use concentrated solar radiation to heal him and comfort Superman with a message from his birth parents, Jor-El and Lara Lorvan, who sent him to Earth to save him from the destruction of their planet Krypton. The message was damaged during the journey, so only the first half can be played. Superman returns to Metropolis and is again beaten by the Hammer, who is secretly Luthor's meta-human Ultraman. Superman agrees to be interviewed by Lois Lane, his girlfriend and reporter colleague at the Daily Planet, leading to an argument when Lois presses him on the legal and ethical implications of his actions in Boravia. Luthor unleashes a kaiju on Metropolis as a distraction while he infiltrates the fortress with Ultraman and the Engineer. They overpower the robots, capture Krypto, and discover the Kryptonian message. The Engineer restores the damaged portion. Superman rescues civilians while fighting the kaiju with the Justice Gang, a team composed of heroes Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, and Hawk Girl. Despite Superman wanting to take the creature alive, Mr. Terrific kills it. Luthor broadcasts the Kryptonian message and Superman is shocked to hear the second half, in which his parents urge him to conquer Earth and take many wives to restore the Kryptonian race. Public opinion turns against Superman, especially when he angrily confronts Luthor looking for Krypto. Lois reassures Superman that she believes he is good, and he confesses his love for her before surrendering himself to the US government. They hand him over to Luthor for detainment and questioning inside an artificial pocket universe where Luthor secretly holds his enemies, including Krypto. Superman is imprisoned with the meta-human Metamorpho. Luthor uses Metamorpho's infant son Joey as leverage to force him to transmute one of his hands into kryptonite, rendering Superman powerless. During questioning, Luthor murders one of Superman's supporters, Malik Ali. A horrified Metamorpho agrees to help Superman escape, and they free Joey and Krypto. Lois convinces Mr. Terrific to help find Superman and they enter the Pocket Universe, rescuing the others. Lois takes Superman to recuperate with his adopted human parents, Jonathan and Martha Kent. Jonathan tells the demoralized Superman that his choices and actions determine who he is, not the message from his birth parents. Luthor's girlfriend Eve Teschmacher, who is infatuated with Daily Planet photographer Jimmy Olsen, provides him evidence that Luthor is aiding Boravia in return for half of Jarhanper's territory. Luthor imprisons her and lures Superman back to Metropolis by opening an unstable portal to the Pocket Universe, creating a rift in reality which splits the city in half. Superman sends Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and Metamorpho to stop Boravia from invading Jarhanper again. Hawkgirl kills Gurkos and Green Lantern invites Metamorpho to join the Justice Gang. In Metropolis, Superman and Mr. Terrific fight the Engineer and Ultraman. After Superman defeats the Engineer, he learns that Ultraman is a clone of himself created by Luthor. With Krypto's help, Superman defeats Ultraman and knocks him into a black hole beneath the rift. At Luthor's headquarters, Mr. Terrific closes the rift. Luthor says he orchestrated the Jarhanper conflict as an excuse to implicate Superman, driven by envy of his public admiration despite being an alien. Superman challenges his ideology, but Luthor remains defiant and is subdued by Krypto. Lois and Jimmy expose Luthor's schemes to the public, clearing Superman's name. Luthor and his associates are arrested, and those trapped in his pocket universe, including Eve, are freed. Lois confesses that she loves Clark too. As Superman recovers at the fortress, his cousin Kara Zor-El drunkenly arrives to pick up Krypto. The robots comfort Superman with footage of his childhood on Earth with his human parents. Cast: Clark Kent actor David Corenswet during filming in 2024, wearing glasses and a suit while carrying a newspaper and a briefcase. Lois Lane actress Rachel Brosnahan during filming in 2024, holding an umbrella. Superman stars David Corenswet, top, and Rachel Brosnahan, bottom, during filming in June 2024. David Corenswet as Clark Kent/Superman. A survivor from the destroyed planet Krypton who lives on Earth as a superhero. He maintains a separate identity at his day job, working as a journalist for the Daily Planet in Metropolis. 5/6 director James Gunn said Corenswet's Superman is around 25 years old, making him more established than Tom Welling's version from the CW series Smallville, 2001-2011, but younger than Henry Cavill's version in the DC Extended Universe, DCEU. 7 producer Peter Safran described the film's take on the character for the DC Universe, DCU, as the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way and kindness in a world that thinks of kindness as old-fashioned. 8 Gunn said Clark is becoming successful as both a journalist and a superhero in the film, but new elements in his life leave him unbalanced. These include being madly in love with his colleague Lois Lane, and making friends with other superheroes who think he is naive. The film shows how these elements impact Clark's values and choices, 9 which are flawed, and put him on a personal journey. Corenswet differentiated the role between Clark's interactions with his parents, his job at the Daily Planet, and as Superman. He described Superman as a public-facing character who wants to present himself as calm but with authority. Corenswet drew inspiration for Clark from the comic book All-Star Superman, 2005-2008, by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, and the posture of Christopher Reeve's portrayal from the 1978-87 Superman film series. He was also inspired for Clark's voice and demeanor by his brother-in-law, whom he described as the quietest, most wonderful man despite his tall 6 feet 8 inches, 2.03 meters, height and weighing 270 pounds, and described Clark as a big presence who is desperately trying to be as small as possible and as quiet as possible. 10 Gunn consulted DC Comics writer Tom King in relation to other characters' suspension of disbelief regarding Clark's dual identity, which was attributed to the use of hypnotic glasses to subtly distort his appearance. Gunn included this in the film, noting that it had kind of been forgotten from the comic book canon. 11 Corenswet also portrays Ultraman, an armored clone of Superman created by Lex Luthor who masquerades as the Hammer of Boravia. 12. Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. A reporter for the Daily Planet who is a colleague of Clark 613 and isn't so sure about him and needs to be convinced about being in a relationship with him. 9-10 Brosnahan described Lois as fiercely intelligent and feisty. 14 She consulted with several journalists to help her portray Lois as a modern reporter, contrasting with the character's original comics appearances and previous screen portrayals. 15. Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. The CEO of Luthor Corp and the arch-nemesis of Superman 13-16-17 who hates Superman for having the power to do everything but not aligning with Luthor's own beliefs. 18-19 Hoult described Luthor as obsessive, determined, and relentless, and wanted the character to feel like a credible threat to Superman. He has his end goal in sight and is motivated by many emotions, including a need to be recognized for his scientific genius. 19 Hoult was inspired by Michael Rosenbaum's Lex Luthor in Smallville and by billionaire Steve Jobs for Luthor's uniform, choosing to work out for the role based on the depiction of Luthor in All-Star Superman. 1920 Hoult's head was shaved by his son Joaquin in preparation for the role. 21 Gunn took inspiration for the character from Brian Azzarello's limited comic book series Lex Luthor, Man of Steel, 2005, as well as Jerry Siegel's reckless scientific genius version of Luthor in comic books from the 1950s and 1960s. 22. Edi Gathaji as Michael Holt / Mr. Terrific. A superhero and inventor who uses a variety of high-tech gadgets to fight crime 1323 and is a member of the Justice Gang sponsored by Maxwell Lord. 24 Gathaji described his character as an atheist who believes in justice, and said Holt found meaning in knowledge after experiencing the death of his wife. 24. Anthony Kerrigan as Rex Mason / Metamorpho. An archaeologist and superhero who can transmute elements in his body into various forms. 25 He becomes a member of the Justice Gang. 26 Kerrigan said it was refreshing to play a superhero after previously portraying the Batman villain Victor Zsasz in the television series Gotham, 2014-2019. He felt that he could bring some authenticity and truth to the role by comparing Metamorpho's concerns about his abilities to Kerrigan's own alopecia. 27. Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner / Green Lantern. An abrasive galactic peacekeeper in the Green Lantern Corps 23 and a Justice Gang member 24 whom Fillion described as a fearless, overconfident jerk. 28 Fillion drew inspiration for Gardner speaking his mind with no filter from Estelle Getty's Sophia Petrillo in the sitcom The Golden Girls, 1985-1992. Fillion referred back to the character's origin story, in which Gardner was hit by a bus and sent into a coma as what flipped the switch for his personality, making him off a little bit. 29 The film retains the character's iconic bowl-cut haircut from the comics 23 which Fillion insisted on having despite some discussions about changing his hairstyle. 29. Isabella Merced as Kendra Saunders / Hawk Girl. A superhero with wings and various melee weapons who is a Justice Gang member. She is reincarnated from an alien, retaining her memories and past trauma with a grumpy demeanor. 30-23 Merced felt the self-awareness and comedic aspects of the film helped Saunders make light of her trauma. 30 Merced's short 5 feet 1 inch, 1.55 meters, height differentiates her from other DCU heroes. 23 Merced felt that her role as Anya Corazon in the Sony's Spider-Man universe, Sue, film Madam Web, 2024, helped prepare her to play Hawkgirl, though she did not tell the Superman filmmakers about that role in case they did not want her to play both. 31. Skyla Gisondo plays Jimmy Olsen, a boyish young photographer who is Clark and Lois's closest colleague. 32 While Wendell Pierce plays Daily Planet editor-in-chief Perry White. 33 Pierce said Perry is always grumpy because Luther had an affair with Perry's wife, and Perry's second child may actually be Luther's, so Perry's driving force is wanting to get back at Luther. 34. 16:19:16:43 The actor asked his friends for information on the character because he did not read comic books growing up. 35 Other staff at the Daily Planet include Beck Bennett as reporter Steve Lombard, 36 Michaela Hoover as columnist Kat Grant, and Christopher McDonald as reporter Ron Troop. 37 Pruitt Taylor Vince and Neva Howell respectively play Jonathan and Martha Kent, Clark's adoptive human parents. 38-39 and studied tapes of drummer and radio personality Richard Christie's parents to develop their Kansan accents for the film. 40 Bradley Cooper, who previously collaborated with Gunn on his Guardians of the Galaxy films, 2014-2023, and Angela Sarafian respectively portray Superman's Kryptonian parents Jor-El and Lara Lorvan. 41-42 of the Superman robots who aid Superman at the Fortress of Solitude, prior Gunn collaborators Alan Tudyk, Michael Rooker, and Pom Klementieff respectively voice 4, later named Gary, 1, and 5, with Grace Chan as the voice of 12. 43-44-45 Gunn's wife Jennifer Holland is the uncredited voice of another robot at the end of the film. 46 Dinesh Thiagarajan plays Malik Ali, a falafel cart vendor who supports Superman. 47 Dog actor Jolene stood in for the superpowered dog Crypto, whom Gunn described as a not-so-good good boy. The character was primarily created with visual effects. 48-9 and was modeled after Gunn's dog Ozu. 49. Sarah Sampaio portrays Eve Teschmacher, Luther's assistant and girlfriend who is secretly involved with Jimmy. 50-24 She felt comfortable performing with Holt after working with him on a campaign for Armani. 51-52 Maria Gabriela de Faria plays Angela Spica / the Engineer, an ally of Luther whose abilities come from nanotechnology in her body. She appears ahead of a planned film about the Authority, the team that she is a member of in the comics. 53-24 Other allies of Luther include Zlatko Buric as Vasil Gurkos, the president of Boravia. 41 Terence Rosemore and Stephen Blackahart as Luther Corp employees Otis Berg and Sidney Happerson, respectively. 55-56 Trevor Newland as Mr. Handsome, a humanoid creature created by Luther. 47 and comedian Michael Ian Black as Clevie Thornwaite, the host of the news talk show The Sphere. 41. Additionally, Frank Grillo reprises his role as ARGUS director Rick Flag Sr. from the animated DCU series Creature Commandos, 2024-present. 57-58 Tinash Kajiz Bolden reprises her role as ARGUS member Flo Crawley, now a U.S. Secretary, from the DCEU film The Suicide Squad, 2021. 41 Millie Alcock has an uncredited cameo appearance as Superman's cousin Kara Zor-El / Supergirl ahead of her own film, Supergirl, 2026. 59 John Cena has an uncredited cameo appearance as Chris Smith / Peacemaker on a news show, mocking Superman, ahead of his role in the second season of Peacemaker, 2025. 41 and Gunn's brother Sean has a cameo appearance as billionaire Maxwell Lord, the head of Lord Tech and the corporate backer of the Justice Gang. 24-30 Sean said they ignored past depictions of Lord when creating their version, including Peter Facinelli's portrayal in the Arrowverse series Supergirl, 2015-2021, and Pedro Pascal's in the DCEU film Wonder Woman 1984, 2020. 60 other cameo appearances include ABC News correspondent Will Reeve, the son of Christopher Reeve, as a GBS News reporter. 61-41 Michael Rosenbaum, who portrayed Luther in Smallville, as the voice of one of Luther's Raptor guards. 41 and Louisa Krause in the non-speaking role of Sapphire Stagg, Metamorpho's wife. 47. Production. Background. Warner Bros. Pictures was planning in 2012 for the film Man of Steel, 2013, based on the DC Comics character Superman, to start a shared universe 62 which became known as the DC Extended Universe, DCEU. 63-64 They announced a full slate of DC films in October 2014. 65 Prioritizing Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, 2016, as the second DCEU film after Man of Steel failed to meet the studio's financial expectations. 66 Despite this, they said an undated sequel to Man of Steel was in development with Henry Cavill set to reprise his role as Clark Kent/Superman. 65 Man of Steel director Zack Snyder said they had been considering the imprisoned Kryptonians from the first film and the character Brainiac as antagonists for the sequel before work began on Batman v Superman. 66 A Man of Steel sequel was in active development as a top priority for the studio in August 2016. 67 which Cavill's manager Danny Garcia confirmed the following month. 68 Amy Adams, who portrayed Lois Lane in Man of Steel, said in November that the studio was working on the screenplay. 69 Matthew Vaughn was Warner Bros.' top choice to direct the film and had preliminary conversations about it by March 2017. 70 Vaughn and comic book writer Mark Millar previously pitched a new Superman trilogy prior to the development of Man of Steel, in which the destruction of the planet Krypton would not occur until after Superman had already grown up on the planet. 71 After the troubled production of the DCEU film Justice League, 2017, Warner Bros. Rethought its approach to DC projects. 72 By the end of 2017, a Man of Steel sequel was not coming anytime soon, if at all. Justice League producer Charles Roven said story ideas had been discussed but there was no script. 73 Before the release of Mission Impossible Fallout in July 2018, director Christopher McQuarrie and CO star Cavill pitched their take on a new Superman film, partially inspired by the animated film Up, 2009, but Warner Bros. Did not pursue the idea. 74-75 Later in 2018, the studio asked James Gunn to write and direct a Superman film, but he was uncertain if he wanted to take on the character. 76-77 He did not have a clear vision, especially since Superman is a well-known character unlike the Guardians of the Galaxy whom he adapted for Marvel Studios in the film Guardians of the Galaxy, 2014. 78 Gunn chose to make The Suicide Squad, 2021, instead. 76-77 calling it the easier path. 79 In September, negotiations for Cavill to reprise his role for a cameo appearance in Shazam 2019 ended due to contract issues. 80 as well as a scheduling conflict with Cavill's Fallout commitments. 80-81 Cavill was reported to be parting ways with the studio, with no plans for him to reprise his role in future projects. 80 But Cavill said in November 2019 that he had not given up on the character and still wanted to do the role justice. 81 At that time, Warner Bros. Was unsure which direction to take the character and was talking to high-profile talent about the property, including J.J. Abrams, whose company Bad Robot signed an overall deal with Warner Bros.' parent company Warner Media, and Michael B. Jordan, who pitched himself as a black version of the character. 82 By May 2020, Warner Bros. Was no longer developing a Man of Steel sequel, but Cavill was in talks to appear in a different DC film. 83-84 In February 2021, Ta-Nehisi Coates was revealed to be writing a new Superman film that Abrams was producing. 85 The film was expected to feature a black actor portraying Superman, with the potential for Jordan to take on the role. 86 Development. Filmmaker James Gunn during filming in June 2024. Writer and director James Gunn, pictured during filming in June 2024, began work on a new Superman film in August 2022. In April 2022, Discovery, Inc. and Warner Media merged to become Warner Bros. Discovery, WBD, led by President and CEO David Zaslav. The new company was expected to restructure DC Entertainment, and Zaslav began searching for an equivalent to Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige to lead the new subsidiary. Zaslav and WBD felt DC lacked a coherent creative and brand strategy and were underusing Superman. 87 Over the years, Gunn considered how he would approach Superman if he were ever given another opportunity. 79 And around late August 2022 he was hired to work on a Superman film that was not a sequel to Man of Steel and would be stand-alone from the DCEU. 88-89 Zaslav spent time with Gunn while he was writing the script. 90. Cavill made a cameo appearance in the post-credits scene of the DCEU film Black Adam, released in October 2022, and Warner Bros. Was reportedly pursuing a Cavill-led Man of Steel sequel once again. Roven was producing and the studio was searching for writers. They wanted Macquarie to direct, but he was unlikely to be available due to his commitments to the Mission Impossible franchise. Coates's film was still in development. Cavill's role in Black Adam was approved by Warner Bros. Film chiefs Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdy when they were approached directly by Black Adam star Dwayne Johnson. Johnson began promoting the idea of a Black Adam vs. Superman film starring Cavill. 91 The latter signed a one-off deal for Black Adam and only received a verbal agreement that he would continue playing the character in the DCEU. 92-93 Cavill publicly announced that he would return as Superman for future projects. 93-94 and said his Black Adam cameo was a very small taste of future plans. 94 He said Superman would be enormously joyful moving forward. 95 Stephen Knight wrote a script treatment for the sequel around that time. 96 which reportedly included Brainiac as the antagonist. 93 But Warner Bros. Executives were not thrilled with his take. 96 Michael Bay was eyed to potentially direct the film. 2. Gunn and the Suicide Squad producer Peter Safran were announced as the co-chairs and co-CEOs of the newly formed DC Studios at the end of October 2022. 97 A week after starting their new roles, the pair had begun developing an 8 to 10 year plan for a new DC Universe, DCU, that would be a soft reboot of the DCEU. 98-99 100 In mid-November, Gunn was publicly revealed to be writing a new DC film. 101 Andy Muschietti, director of the DCEU film The Flash, 2023, expressed interest in directing a Superman project with a similar tone to director Richard Donner's film Superman, 1978. 102 In early November, Cavill expressed interest in a future project that explored Superman's capacity to give and to love the people of Earth and to inspire others. 103 And said he was looking forward to meeting with Gunn to discuss future opportunities. 104 Work on the Man of Steel sequel stalled later that month while Gunn and Safran were developing their plans. 105 In December 2022, Gunn said Superman was a big priority, if not the biggest, for DC Studios. 106 Before publicly announcing that he was writing a new Superman film. The film was set to focus on a younger version of the character and would therefore not star Cavill. There was potential for Gunn to also direct the film. 5 It would not retell the origin of Superman. 107 And would focus on him as a young reporter interacting with key characters such as Lois Lane. 108 Gunn and Safran met with Cavill to explain their decision and discuss potentially working with him for a different role in the future. 108 On January 31, 2023, Gunn and Safran unveiled the first projects from their DCU slate, which begins with Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. Their Superman film was the first film in that chapter and was officially titled Superman: Legacy. It was given a release date of July 11, 2025. 109 Which coincides with the birthday of Gunn's late father. 110 Safran wanted Gunn to direct the film. 109 Gunn said Superman: Legacy would take specific inspiration from the comic book All-Star Superman, 2005-2008, by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. 7 The film was also inspired by the Superman animated shorts, 1941-1943, and the Superman, the animated series, 1996-2000, 111 and by other comics books such as Superman, Birthright, 2003-04, the Brainiac story arc, 2008, Superman, Ending Battle, 2002, 112 Superman for All Seasons, 1998, 113 Kingdom Come, 1996, Morrison's Action Comics run, and Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. 1986. 111. DCU writer Tom King said in March 2023 that Gunn was also directing the film 114, which Gunn confirmed later that month. 115 at that time, Safran was confirmed to be producing the film 110, doing so through his production company the Safran Company, with Gunn also producing through his production company Troll Court Entertainment. 116 Gunn was hesitant to direct the film, despite encouragement from Safran and others, until he realized how focusing on Superman's heritage with his aristocratic Kryptonian parents and adoptive farmer parents from Smallville, Kansas, would inform the characterization. Gunn felt emotionally connected to this aspect of the film because of his late father. 110 He said in April that the film's tone would differ from his Guardians of the Galaxy films, 2014-2023, 117, and he suggested that Superman's dog Krypto could appear. 117, 118, 119. Pre-production. Before and during the 2023 labor strikes. Production design, costume design, and casting began in April 2023. 78 120 Production designer Beth Mickle and costume designer Judiana Makovsky returned from the Suicide Squad and Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, 2023. 121 122 Filming was set to begin in January 2024. 78 Gunn said the character Jimmy Olsen would appear. 123 He did not intend for the film to be a comedy and hoped it would differ from previous Superman films while respecting what came before. 78 Gunn completed the first draft of the script at the end of April. Production was not expected to be impacted by the 2023 Writers Guild of America strike when it began in early May. 124. Image of David Corenswet suiting up as Superman while an alien-looking threat attacks in the background. Promotional image which revealed star David Corenswet in costume as Superman for the first time. Gunn was looking for an actor to play Superman who possessed the character's humanity, kindness, and compassion, and was somebody who you want to give a hug. 125 audition tapes for the main roles of Superman, Lois Lane, and Lex Luthor were submitted by early May 2023. Gunn began watching them later that month. 126 While he was storyboarding the film. 127 At this point, Gunn watched the film Pearl, 2022, and David Corenswet's performance in it stood out to him. Corenswet had previously expressed his desire to portray Superman and his audition was one of the first Gunn saw. 10 Corenswet became a top contender for Superman and was set to do a screen test by early June. Jacob Elordi, Tom Brittney, and Andrew Richardson were also in consideration. 17 126 Though Elordi declined to read for the role. 128 Patrick Schwarzenegger, the Arrowverse series Supergirl, 2015-2021, guest star Pearson Fode, and Jack Quaid the voice of Superman in the animated series My Adventures with Superman, 2023-present, all submitted self-tapes for Superman. 129 130 131 Emma McKee, Rachel Brosnahan, Samara Weaving, and Phoebe Dynevor tested for Lane. 17 126 Dynevor was one of the final contenders. 132 Brosnahan made an audition tape with her husband Jason Ralph, who read Superman's lines. 133 Nicholas Hoult, the runner-up to play Bruce Wayne/Batman in the standalone DC film The Batman, 2022, 17 was eyed for Luthor but chose to pursue the role of Superman instead. 54 Because he felt while he could play Luthor well, he insisted himself to focus on auditioning for Superman. 19 Gunn considered A-list actors he had already worked with for Luthor and discussed the role with a Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 actor that was reported to be Bradley Cooper. 17 134 135 black actors were also being considered. 136 testing took place using the label Apex, a reference to a comic version of Luthor called Apex Luthor. 136 other superheroes were expected to be established in the film's setting, 17 with casting underway for a black actor to play Michael Holt/Mr. Terrific and for an Asian or Latina actress to portray a character labeled Blitz. 138 in-person screen tests took place at the Warner Bros. Studios lot in Burbank, California, with Gunn and Safran in mid-June 2023. The actors tested in makeup and costume as Kent and Lane in the following pairs: Holt and Brosnahan, Brittany and Denver, and Corenswet and McKee. 54-139 The Kent contenders then tested in costume as Superman against McKee. 54-1 of Cavill's original DCEU Superman suits, which was in poor condition, was used for the tests. Gunn said Brittany messed it up and then it was torn to shreds by Corenswet, who was too tall. 140 Gunn edited the tests together to be played for a deciding committee that included Zaslav. 54 and the casting of Corenswet as Superman and Brosnahan as Lane was announced on June 27. 6 Gunn personally contacted the actors to inform them of their castings. 133 and he offered the role of Superman to Corenswet while he was filming Twisters, 2024, on the condition that he treat everyone involved in the film with kindness and respect, citing his experiences with Chris Pratt, Peter Quill/Star-Lord in the MCU, and John Cena, Christopher Smith/Peacemaker in the DCEU, doing the same. 9 Casting for other roles was set to follow, including for members of the superhero team The Authority who were expected to be introduced in Superman Legacy ahead of a planned film about the team. 54-141 brothers Alexander and Bill Skarsgård were on the short list for Luthor. It was unclear if Holt would return to try for Luthor again. 54 but Gunn later contacted Holt about playing Luthor, which he accepted after realizing he was more suited for that role. 19 Corenswet and Brosnahan each earned $750,000 for their roles, while Holt was the highest paid actor in Superman, earning $2 million. They were all eligible for bonuses based on the film's box office performance. Gunn was paid $15 million for his work on Superman, in addition to his 7-figure salary for his role at DC Studios. 142-143 On July 11, 2023, 2 years before the film's scheduled release date, 144 the casting of Isabella Merced, Edi Gathaji, and Nathan Fillion, respectively, as the superheroes Kendra Saunders/Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific, and Guy Gardner/Green Lantern was announced. 23 Merced tested as Barbara Gordon/Batgirl for the unreleased DCEU film Batgirl. 145 while Fillion starred in several of Gunn's earlier films, including as Corey Pitzner/TDK in The Suicide Squad, and had previously voiced fellow Green Lantern Hal Jordan in several animated projects. 23 146 Gathaji was cast over 200 other actors. 147 Anthony Carrigan, who expressed interest in playing Luthor, was cast as the superhero Rex Mason/Metamorpho the next day. 25 148 Gunn chose some of these actors sometime earlier but had been waiting until Superman and Lane were cast before negotiating further actor deals, leaving little time to complete negotiations before the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike began on July 14. 25 149 In response to concerns that other superheroes would take away from the story of Superman and Lane, Gunn said those two characters remained the film's focus and the other actors were being cast for multiple DCU projects. 144 He later elaborated that a large cast of characters was included in the film because he wanted to explore Clark Kent's interactions with his colleagues and Superman's interactions with other superheroes. 150 And show how those groups impact the characters' values and choices. 9. Post-labor strikes. Jimmy Olsen actor Skyla Gisondo during filming in June 2024. Cat Grant actress Michaela Hoover during filming in June 2024. Eve Teschmacher actress Sarah Sampaio during filming in June 2024. Superman supporting cast members Skyla Gisondo, left, Michaela Hoover, center, and Sarah Sampaio, right, during filming in June 2024. When the WGA strike ended in September 2023, Superman, Legacy was expected to begin filming in early to mid-2024. 151 Jason Momoa, who portrayed Aquaman in the DCEU, was reported the following month to have discussed portraying the character Lobo in either this film or a solo film. 152 He was later cast in that role for the DCU film Supergirl, 2026, originally titled Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. 153 The SAG-AFTRA strike ended on November 9, and filming was clarified to be beginning in March 2024. 154 155 Gunn said the film would still make its July 2025 release date. 156 Maria Gabriela de Faria was revealed to be cast as Angela Spica / The Engineer, one of the film's antagonists and a member of the Authority, in mid-November. 53 Madison Beer said she submitted a self-tape and unsuccessfully auditioned for a role, as did O'Shea Jackson Jr. 157 158 Holt was in talks to portray Luther prior to the SAG-AFTRA strike, and negotiations for the role were continuing in November. 159 160 When Skyla Gisondo and Sarah Sampaio were revealed to have been respectively cast as Jimmy Olsen and Luther's assistant Eve Teschmacher. 3250 Gunn said Gisondo, Sampaio, and de Faria had been cast prior to the strike. 161 And the roles of Mr. Terrific and Teschmacher were particularly difficult to cast and required many auditions. 162 In December 2023, Gunn's brother Sean was cast as Maxwell Lord for future DCU projects, after Pedro Pascal played the role in the DCEU film Wonder Woman 1984, 2020. The character was expected to be referenced in Superman, Legacy, but it was unknown if he would appear in the film. 163 James Gunn confirmed that Holt had finalized a deal to portray Luther 16 and Miriam Shore entered negotiations for an undisclosed role after appearing in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. 164 The Hollywood Reporter also said the cast included Sean Gunn and Pom Klementieff, who starred in the Guardians of the Galaxy films, before James Gunn stated that Klementieff was not involved in the film and Shore had not been cast. 164 165 166 He added that the film's script had been mostly completed before the writers' strike. 167 Gunn said in January that work on the sets, prosthetics, and visual effects models were underway, the costumes were being completed, and most of the actors had been cast. 168 Brosnahan said the film was being made with a lot of love for the source material, as many cast and crew members had grown up watching Superman films and reading the comics. 14 At the end of the month, Millie Alcock was cast as Superman's cousin Kara Zor-El / Supergirl. The character was reported to be making her debut in Superman, Legacy ahead of starring in her own DCU film, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. 169 170 171 172 Alcock had performed auditions and screen tests in costume on the Superman, Legacy set in Atlanta, Georgia, earlier in January. 172 173 Pre-production work in Ohio began in early February 2024. 174 with the Ohio Department of Development announcing that Superman, Legacy would be partially filmed in Cleveland and Cincinnati. The film was awarded over $11 million through the state's tax credit program. 174 175 based on a $37 million spent in the state out of the film's reported total gross production budget of $363.80 million. 176 177 Gunn disputed the accuracy of this budget, which would have made it one of the most expensive superhero films ever made. 178 177 The film was later reported to have a net production budget of $225 million with incentives and tax breaks factored in. 177 2 Also in February, Bassem Youssef said he had been cast in the film reportedly as Ruman Harjati, the leader of a fictional Middle Eastern country, but his character was removed from the script. He believed this was potentially due to comments he made in October 2023 criticizing the Israeli government during the Gaza war. Gunn disputed this, explaining that he discussed a role with Youssef before the WGA strike, but the actor had not been formally offered the part, and the character was removed after the strike ended and before Youssef's comments were made. 179 180 181 A table read with the cast was held on February 22, and Gunn revealed that Terence Rosemore was portraying Luther's henchman Otisburg after having small roles in some of Gunn's prior films. 55 Zaslav said filming would begin the following week. 182 when Gunn announced that he had shortened the film's title to Superman. 183 he had come to feel while writing the film that it was about looking forward while the legacy subtitle was about looking backward. 183 184 Filming. Principal photography began on February 29, 2024, which is Superman's birthday in the comic books. 183 filming took place in the Adventdalen Valley in Svalbard, Norway, for 1 week to shoot scenes featuring the Fortress of Solitude. Gunn chose Svalbard for its natural beauty, landscapes, and similarities to Antarctica, where the fortress is located. 185 186 filming occurred under the working title Genesis. 174 187 Henry Braham returned as cinematographer from the later two Guardians of the Galaxy films, The Suicide Squad, and The Flash. 188 The entire film was shot using IMAX certified red digital cinema cameras. 189 190 filming was delayed from an initial January 2024 start by the SAG-AFTRA strike. 155 and was expected to last around 4 months. 191 Effects Studio Legacy Effects worked on the film's practical effects. 192 193 Legacy Effects contributed character design, prosthetic makeup, specialty suits, and animatronics to the production. 194 A Metropolis police car on a Cleveland street in the foreground with a Greetings from Metropolis sign in the background. The entrance to the Daily Planet Leader building in Cleveland with a world globe above the center door. A police car and buildings decorated with Metropolis decal, left, and the Leader building decorated as the entrance to the Daily Planet, right, during location filming in Cleveland in June 2024. Wendell Pierce was cast as Perry White at the start of March. 33 Filming at Trilith Studios in Atlanta, Georgia, had begun by March 8 and was expected to last until August 2. 187 195 Filming in Cleveland and Cincinnati was set to take 37 days between April 1 and August 23. 174 175 Filming was also expected to take place in Macon, Georgia. 196 In April, Pruitt Taylor Vince and Neva Howell were cast as Jonathan and Martha Kent in April. 38-39 while Beck Bennett, Michaela Hoover, and newcomer Christopher McDonald were cast as Daily Planet employees Steve Lombard. 36 197 Cat Grant, and Ron Troop in June. Hoover previously appeared in several of Gunn's films. 37 Corenswet and Brosnahan filmed a 12-minute interview scene together, which Gunn described as 10% of the film shot in 2 days, and highlighted their chemistry as palpable. 9 The 1940 film His Girl Friday was a major reference for depicting their relationship as equal matches for each other with a longing romance and witty comedy inspired by the works of Preston Sturges. 10 characters from the animated DCU series Creature Commandos, 2024 present, were expected to appear in the film, and Gunn and Safran intended for the same actors to portray characters across animation and live action in the DCU. 198-199 set photos revealed that Frank Grillo was reprising his role as Rick Flag Sr. from that series. 57. The production moved to Northeast Ohio on June 14, when filming took place at the Headlands Beach State Park in Mentor, Ohio. 206 weeks of filming took place throughout Cleveland. 201 beginning in downtown Cleveland on June 24. 202 filming locations included Ontario Street, the Cleveland Greyhound Station, Public Square, the Detroit Superior Bridge, PNC Plaza, Progressive Field, and Cleveland Arcade. Exterior shots of the Huntington Bank Building, Key Tower, and the Soldiers and Sailors Monument were filmed in Public Square. 203-204 The exterior of the Leader building stood in for the headquarters of the Daily Planet. 205 and Key Tower was used as the headquarters for Stag Enterprises. 206 Filming in Cleveland was completed on July 16, when Gunn said there were a couple weeks left of shooting. 201-204 The production moved to Cincinnati by July 18, taking place at the Cincinnati Museum Center in Union Terminal and in the Little Tunnel. 207 Filming wrapped on July 30. 208 Post-production. In August 2024, Sean Gunn confirmed his casting as Maxwell Lord for the film. 60 The following month, Alan Tudyk was revealed to have a role in the film after voicing several characters in Creature Commandos. Tudyk voices the Superman robot for 209. 43 Wade revealed that Krypto was appearing in the film 210, which Gunn officially confirmed in October. He explained that the character's portrayal was inspired by his dog Ozu, who was adopted soon after Gunn began writing Superman, and said Ozu was at first problematic to say the least. I remember thinking, gosh, how difficult would life be if Ozu had superpowers? And thus Krypto came into the script and changed the shape of the story. 48. How can you take a character like this, who's perceived as old-fashioned by many? There have been so many different permutations of the character throughout the years, so how could you do it for a modern audience? I knew what I wanted to do in creating a story that was both utterly human and utterly fantastic. It has all the fantastic elements that we've never really seen in a Superman movie: the flying dog, the giant kaiju, pocket universes, science, and sorcery, and all these things that were in the old Max Fleischer cartoons. Writer and director James Gunn discussing the film in April 2025. 79. Gunn began test screening the film by the start of December. 211 A day and a half of individual pickup shots were scheduled to take place in Los Angeles shortly after, which Gunn said was to enhance the film rather than reshoot any scenes. 212 Alcock was confirmed to be appearing in the film in January 2025. 59 3 days of pick UPS had also taken place in Atlanta by the end of May. 213 and Gunn said the film was completed and received a picture lock on June 5. 214 Later that month, Michael Rooker and Clementieff were confirmed to have voiced two Superman robots alongside Cooper and Angela Sarafian as Superman's Kryptonian parents Jor-El and Lara Lorvan. 45-42 William Hoy and Craig Albert co-edited the film, after they respectively worked on the DC films The Batman and Blue Beetle, 2023. 116. Much of the visual effects team from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 returned to work with Gunn on Superman 215, including visual effects supervisor Stephen Soretti. 216 Visual effects were provided by Framestore, Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, and WTA with Macron FX. 217. Music. Main article, Superman, 2025 soundtrack. In December 2023, Gunn said most of the film's score and major themes had been written, but the composer had not been announced because their deal had not been finalized. 218 In February 2024, he announced that John Murphy was composing the score after doing so for the Suicide Squad, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, 2022, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. 219 In December, Gunn confirmed that Murphy was using a new version of John Williams's Superman March theme from the 1978 Superman film. Gunn considered Williams's score to be one of the greatest of all time and had associated his theme with Superman from the start of the film's development. He saw the theme's inclusion as one way for the film to harken back to past iterations. Unlike other projects by Gunn, Superman only features two licensed songs, Punk Rocker by Teddy Bears and Iggy Pop, and 5 Years Time by Noah and the Whale. 220 221 222 In April 2025, David Fleming was revealed to be contributing some music and sharing credit for the score with Murphy. 223 213 On the soundtrack, Saffron's daughter Lulu performs the Mighty Crabjoys theme with the American rock band Foxy Shazam, with Lulu and the band's member Eric Nally on vocals, and written by Gunn and Nally. 224, 233-2:45. Marketing. Comic book cover with Superman sitting in the clouds above a city. Writer and director James Gunn took specific inspiration from the comic book series All-Star Superman, 2005-2008, by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. He included the cover art for the comic's first issue, pictured, in the film's announcement. For the January 2023 announcement, Gunn used the cover art of All-Star Superman's first issue to represent the film. 225. He also posted the cover on social media in March when confirming that he would direct the film. 226. Gunn marked the beginning of filming in February 2024 by posting a picture of Superman's logo 183, which commentators noted for its visual similarity to the character's costume in the Kingdom Come comic book, albeit with the classic yellow and red color scheme. 227. 228. Safran promoted the film on stage during Warner Bros.' Cinemakin presentation in April, with Gunn, Corenswet, and Brosnahan appearing via video messages. 229. The panel unveiled a full look at the Superman emblem, and Gunn said he planned to attend the following year's event in person with the cast to initiate a Summer of Superman. 230. Gunn released a first-look image of Corenswet in costume in early May, which depicts Superman suiting up while an alien-looking threat attacks in the background. Commentary on the image focused on the return of red briefs, which were not included in the Man of Steel design. Elements of the costume were also compared to Jim Lee's design used in DC Comics' 2011 New 52 initiative. The character's pose and the attack in the background led to speculation about Superman's characterization in the film and what threats he may face. 226. 231. 232. A display inspired by the film's Fortress of Solitude was included at Warner Bros.' Licensing Expo booth in Las Vegas later in May. 233. Gunn released the first image of Krypto, alongside Corenswet's Superman, in October 2024 in honor of Adopt a Shelter Dog Month. 48. A motion poster was released on December 16 featuring a slowed-down rendition of John Williams's Superman March with an electric guitar opening. 234. 235. Jordan Morrow at Variety described the poster as an homage to Christopher Reeve's portrayal of Superman in the 1978 film, but with quieter, more thoughtful music. A teaser trailer was shown at a press screening that day ahead of a public release on December 19. 234. The trailer had over 250 million global views in its first 24 hours, making it the most viewed and discussed trailer for a DC Comics or Warner Bros. Film in that time period. 236. Water Tower Music released Murphy's music for the trailer as a single, titled Theme from Superman, trailer version, later that day. 235. Animal Planet's Puppy Bowl XXI on Super Bowl Sunday in February 2025 was CO-sponsored by the film, with Gunn and OZU appearing to introduce new footage. A Krypto Super Play Award was presented to one of the puppies participating in the game. 237. At the end of the month, DC Studios hired Ricky Strauss, a former marketing executive at Apple TV and Disney, to consult on the film's marketing following the exit of Warner Bros. Global Marketing Chief Josh Goldstein the prior month. 238. Safran said Zaslav had rallied the entire company behind the film in a similar way to previous successful Warner Bros. Films such as Barbie, 2023. 239. Gunn, Corenswet, Brosnahan, and Holt promoted the film during Warner Bros.' Cinemakin panel in April 2025, where an extended sequence and new behind-the-scenes footage were shown. 240. 241. The extended footage was later released online and shown before IMAX screenings for the Warner Bros. Film A Minecraft Movie. 242. 243. While the behind-the-scenes footage was released on April 18 to coincide with the anniversary of Superman's debut in Action Comics No. 1, 1938. 244. Commentators highlighted the focus on Krypto and his relationship with Superman in the extended footage, and the behind-the-scenes footage's emphasis on Superman's hopefulness alongside the elaborate sets and costumes. 242, 243, 244. An official trailer was released on May 14, which Rafe look at Bleeding Cool called a banger, highlighting its action, humor, and supporting DC characters. He said the trailer proved that Superman was in the right hands with Gunn's interpretation and that it was definitely the Superman we need in our lives, now more than ever. 245 IGN's Wesley Yin-Poole highlighted Kent and Lane's relationship, and felt the trailer's interview highlighted the ethics of Superman's intervention in a foreign war, which Polygon's Michael McWhirter also commented upon, noting that the trailer questioned if Superman's actions represented American values. 246, 247. A prequel junior novel, Superman, Welcome to Metropolis, was released in early June, and explores the early career of Clark and Lois at the Daily Planet, the Justice Gang members, and features the character Metallo. 248. A final trailer was released on June 11, 1 month before the film's release. Jermaine Lucie of Gizmodo called it the most revealing trailer to date and highlighted the trailer's visual effects and action sequences and its depiction of Luthor's hatred for Superman. 249. Total Films George Marston speculated that Superman would be working both with and against the Justice Gang based on scenes of him collaborating with Mr. Terrific and Gardner being at odds with Superman, while Ernesto Valenzuela from MovieWeb felt Luthor's initial monologue being superseded by Superman's optimism was a brilliant way to construct this trailer. 250, 251. Producer Peter Safran in June 2025. Superman producer Peter Safran promoting the film in Manila in June 2025. The first 30 minutes of the film were shown at Cine Europe in Barcelona on June 17, 252, 253 and in Manila on June 19, as the start of the Superman World Tour, which took place in 7 major international cities leading up to the film's release. 254, 255. Veda Luna Zabala at Nylon Manila described the footage as fun, colorful, and hopeful, and highlighted Holt's performance. 254. An 11 feet, 3.4 m, tall Superman statue modeled after Corenswet was suspended at the top of the Shard in London on July 1, encouraging pedestrians to look up. This was the highest public sculpture put on display in the United Kingdom, and it took 4 months to be crafted. 256. 25. Pop-up Daily Planet newsstand kiosks were also installed at multiple locations throughout London. 257. Warner Brothers hosted a fan event for Superman on July 2, at Cineworld Leicester Square in London. 258. The film partnered with Fandango and Amazon Prime for early access theatrical screenings on July 8, which became Fandango's best-selling first-day pre-sale tickets for that year, surpassing the general pre-sale tickets for Marvel's The Fantastic Four: First Steps, also releasing that month. 259. The Lola Cars Formula E team ran a special livery based on the film for the 2025 Berlin E-Prix. 260. Funko and McFarlane Toys are set to release action figures based on the film. 261. 262. The Hollywood Reporter reported that DC Studios and Warner Brothers could spend approximately $200 million on marketing for a total cost around $400 million with the production budget $177. Though Variety reported that marketing cost $125 million. 142. Leading up to the film's release and amid the mass deportations during the second presidency of U.S. President Donald Trump, Gunn said that Superman is the story of America and an immigrant that came from other places and populated the country, but for me it is mostly a story that says basic human kindness is a value and is something we have lost. 263. This received backlash from some supporters of Trump and members of the MAGA movement, with some pundits on Fox News calling the film super woke, but Gunn responded that Superman was for everyone, explaining that it was about kindness, and I think that's something everyone can relate to. 264. Release. Superman premiered at the TCL Chinese Theater on July 7, 2025 265 and was released theatrically by Warner Bros. Pictures internationally on July 9 266 116 and in the United States and China on July 11 183 266 in IMAX 267 Realty 3D, Dolby Cinema 268 Screen X, and 4DX. 269. In January 2025, the estate of Superman CEO creator Joe Shuster filed a lawsuit against WBD, asserting that the rights to distribute the film in some international territories had reverted to them based on different copyright laws, the United Kingdom, Ireland, and Australia in 2017, and Canada in 2021. 272 months later, WBD filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit, citing prior copyright lawsuits being rejected 271 and it was dismissed in April, due to a lack of jurisdiction. 272 The lawsuit was refiled with the New York Supreme Court a month later, with an injunction requested 273 but the motion was denied in early June. 274. Reception. Box office. As of August 10, 2025, Superman has grossed $331.4 million in the United States and Canada, and $247.8 million in other territories, for a worldwide total of $579.2 million. 3-4. At the start of June 2025, The Wrap reported that Superman needed to gross more than $500 million worldwide to become profitable at the box office, but that it would need to earn around $700 million to be considered a success. The Hollywood Reporter estimated that the film could have a domestic opening weekend of around $175 million and a potential global total of over $1 billion, based on the first full trailer's engagement metrics, while noting its production and marketing costs accounted for a total of around $400 million. 177 3 weeks ahead of the film's release, Superman was projected to earn $145 million or approximately $135 million in its domestic opening weekend, which would be higher than the debut of Man of Steel, $116 million. DC Studios and Warner Bros. Estimated a more conservative debut of $91.25 million, while the potential $175 million debut remained projected, which would surpass the debut of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, $166 million, as the biggest opening for a DC film. 276 in the week of release. Deadline Hollywood projected the film's domestic opening gross to be around $115–130 million. 277. On July 10, Deadline Hollywood reported the film earned $2.8 million from Tuesday previews for an estimated total $21 million including Thursday previews. 278 final Thursday previews would see the film make $22.5 million, when counting both theatrical and Tuesday Amazon Prime screenings, $2.8 million. This was, at the time, the best preview box office for any film released in the year 2025 before The Fantastic Four. First Steps surpassed it 2 weeks later, as well as a record for any film involving James Gunn. 278. This was also higher than the previous preview box office record Warner Bros. Achieved with Barbie. 278. The film was now projected to make $115–121 million at the domestic box office during its opening weekend, and over $210 million worldwide during this time as well. 278. The film made $56.5 million on its first day, the second highest of 2025, behind a Minecraft movie. 281. It ended up debuting to $125 million, finishing atop the box office, and becoming the biggest opening weekend for a standalone Superman film ahead of Man of Steel, 2013, which opened to $116.6 million, as well as the second biggest opening weekend for a film featuring Superman, behind Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, $166 million in 2016. It also scored the third highest opening weekend for a 2025 film, behind a Minecraft movie and Lilo and Stitch. 278 in its second weekend, the film remained in first place, grossing $57 million. 282 This marked a 54% drop, which was deemed better than other superhero films of 2025 up until that point, such American Samoa, Captain America, Brave New World, 68%, and Thunderbolts**, 56%, 283 attributed to positive word of mouth, with Comscore analyst Paul Durgarabdian pointing out that the film's second weekend drop is indicative of a marketplace that's embracing the film. 282 in its third weekend, the film was dethroned by newcomer The Fantastic Four: First Steps, finishing second, earning $24.9 million, a 57% drop. 285 It would become the first DC film since The Batman to make over $300 million domestically. 286 in its opening weekend, the film made an estimated $95 million from international markets, for a total gross of $220 million. The film's highest grossing territories include the United Kingdom, $9.8 million, Mexico, $8.8 million, China, $6.6 million, Brazil, $5.9 million, Australia, $5.3 million, France, $4.2 million, Korea, $4.2 million, India, $3.8 million, Spain, $2.9 million, and Japan, $2.5 million. 287 Its perceived underperformance outside of the United States and Canada, particularly in markets like China, where it debuted in fourth place. 288 was partially attributed to the character's American patriotic roots, with David A. Gross from the Franchiseer movie consulting firm stating Superman has always been identified as a quintessentially American character and story, and in some parts of the world, America is currently not enjoying its greatest popularity. 289 Critical response. Actors David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan in June 2025. Stars David Corenswet, Left, and Rachel Brosnahan promoting the film in Manila in June 2025. On the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, 83% of 472 critics' reviews are positive. The website's consensus reads, pulling off the heroic feat of fleshing out a dynamic new world while putting its champions big, beating heart front and center, this Superman flies high as a man of tomorrow grounded in the here and now. 290 Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 68 out of 100, based on 58 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. 291 critics found the film to be fun, colorful, and earnest, although some felt it was overstuffed with characters and ideas. The performances of Corenswet, Brosnahan, and Holt were praised. 292 293 294 audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of A on an A and to F scale, the same as Man of Steel. Those surveyed by Post-Track gave it an 86% positive score and 74% said they would definitely recommend it. 278. IGN rated the film 8/10, calling it wonderfully entertaining and heartfelt. 295 Scott Phillips of Forbes praised its colorful visuals, humor, and light-hearted tone. 296 Trace Sover of AwardsWatch welcomed its no origin story, no crossover approach. 297 Jake Cole of Slant Magazine argued the character endures because he transcends passing trends. 298 Cody Derricks of Next Best Picture felt the casting is as pitch-perfect as Christopher Reeves was decades ago. 299 Writing for NPR, Glenn Weldon gave the film a positive review, stating that it delivers a Superman deeply in touch with his humanity, and perfectly representative of the essence of the character. 300. Liz Shannon Miller of Consequence called it a movie that doesn't sacrifice its titular character in service to franchise building. Instead, it focuses on celebrating the values that Superman himself has embodied from the beginning. 301 William Bibbiani of The Wrap wrote, James Gunn tried to make a great Superman movie, one that embraces the wonder of the character as an action hero and a moral paragon, which derives its drama from how people react to his faith in us. He succeeded. 302 Nicholas Barber at BBC Culture gave the film 3 stars out of 5, and wrote, "It takes some gall to make a zillion-dollar Hollywood blockbuster that feels so much like an eccentric sci-fi B-movie." 303 Alyssa Wilkinson of the New York Times called it a goofy yet charming take and compared it to Iron Man, 2008. 304 Variety's Owen Gleiberman praised the performances and gave it a positive review. 305 David Crow of Den of Geek said the film achieves true grace when it narrows its focus to Lois and Clark. 306. Among more negative reviews, Peter Bradshaw of The Guardian gave the film 2 stars out of 5, criticizing its pointless, cluttered backstory and yet another CGI city-leveling finale. 307 In a 2 out of 5 review for Empire, Sophie Butcher described it as bold and bright and full of color and cosmic invention, but added that the final act sinks into CGI chaos, with an unsatisfying climax, an eye-roll-inducing reveal, a restlessly intermittent tone, and an insistence on prioritizing things and people we don't really care about over core characters. 308 Eric King gave the film 2 out of 5 for Forbes, writing that the massive cast finds itself in an overstuffed, badly paced plot and that the story moves from one action sequence to the next, racing forward at a breakneck pace that leaves little room for character development. 309 Mark Kermode described the film as tonally all over the place and messy, but that the film was unexpectedly good fun and overall enjoyable. 310. The film features a war between the fictional nations of Boravia, an aggressor backed by Luther in the United States, and its neighbor Jarhanpur, which some critics argue mirrors the real-world dynamics of the Israel-Palestine conflict, particularly the Gaza war that began in 2023. Gunn has maintained that the script predated the conflict and was not intended as an allegory. 311. Accolades. Superman was nominated for Most Anticipated Film at the 8th ASTRA Mid-Season Movie Awards. 312 The trailer Fight was nominated for Best Summer 2025 Blockbuster Trailer at the 2025 Golden Trailer Awards. 313. Future. In June 2025, Gunn said he had begun writing a follow-up to Superman that would not be a direct sequel, but would feature Superman in a major role. 314 315 Corenswet and Brosnahan had options for a potential sequel, but following Superman's release in July, a direct sequel was not expected to be imminently announced. 142 In August, Zaslav confirmed that Gunn was writing and directing the next film in the Super family. 316. Also in July 2025, Gunn was reported to be considering spin-off television series based on supporting characters from the film, such as Gathaji's Mr. Terrific and Gisando's Jimmy Olsen. 317 Journalist Jeff Snyder reported that Gisando was expected to star in a Jimmy Olsen series for the streaming service HBO Max, which would introduce the comic book villain Gorilla Grodd to the DCU. David Packard Corenswet, /KRNSWT/, born July 8, 1993, is an American actor. After graduating from Juilliard in 2016, he began guest starring in television series, including House of Cards in 2018. He played lead roles in the Netflix series The Politician, 2019-2020, and Hollywood, 2020, both created by Ryan Murphy. 4 In 2022, he starred in the films Look Both Ways and Pearl, and the HBO miniseries We Own This City. After supporting roles in the film Twisters and the miniseries Lady in the Lake, both 2024, he rose to prominence with his portrayal of the titular superhero in James Gunn's DC Universe film Superman, 2025. Early life and education. Corenswet was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania 5 and grew up there 6 and in Lower Merion, a Philadelphia suburb. 7 His father, John Corenswet, was from a Jewish family in New Orleans 8, 9, 10 and worked as a stage actor in New York City for many years 5 before becoming a lawyer. 11 His mother is also a lawyer. 12. His maternal grandfather is the American author and creator of the Choose Your Own Adventure book series, Edward Packard. 13. 14. 15. Corenswet graduated from the Shipley School and attended the University of Pennsylvania for a year before transferring to the Juilliard School, where he earned a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Drama in 2016. 5. 16. 17. Career beginnings, 2002-2018. As a child actor, Corenswet appeared in numerous professional theater productions, including the Arden Theatre's 2002 production 18 of Arthur Miller's All My Sons 19, the Philadelphia Shakespeare Festival's 2003 production of Macbeth 20, the Walnut Street Theatre's 2003 production of La Vie en Bleu 2120, and the People's Light and Theatre Company's 2004 production of The Forgiving Harvest 2223, among others. 18. Corenswet wrote the screenplay for and acted in Following Chase, 2011. Directed by Greg Corhan. 24. He next wrote, produced, and starred in a 2-season sketch comedy web series, Mo and Jerry Weather, 2014-2016, along with fellow Juilliard grad Adam Langdon. 25. In 2016, director Rob Reiner cast Corenswet as a CO lead in his planned television series, The Tap, set at Yale College in 1969. Corenswet played a student. 26. USA Network ordered the pilot episode 27, which was filmed in 2017, but declined to pick up the series. 28. In Corenswet's first film role after graduating from Juilliard, he starred as Michael Lawson in Affairs of State, 2018, a political thriller. The film also stars Thora Birch, Mimi Rogers, and Adrian Grenier. Los Angeles Times described the film as well acted. 29. Corenswet then appeared in several guest star roles, including in House of Cards, Elementary, and Instinct. 25. Rising popularity, 2019-present. Corenswet as Clark Kent on the set of Superman in 2024. In Netflix's The Politician, 2019-2020, directed by Ryan Murphy, he portrayed River Barkley, the lover and high school political rival of Peyton Hobart, Ben Platt. Vanity Fair described River as a wealthy, sporty, straight-A student. 30. 31. 32. Corenswet next starred as Jack Costello 33-34 in Hollywood, 2020, a Netflix limited series about the post-World War II film business in Los Angeles. The project reunited him with Ryan Murphy and Ian Brennan, the creators of The Politician. Corenswet was also an executive producer on the series. 35. Men's Health magazine praised Corenswet's performance as that of a breakout lead. 36. IndieWire called it another star-proving turn from David Corenswet. 37. In We Own This City, 2022, a fact-based 38 HBO limited series from The Wire's writers and executive producers David Simon and George Pelecanos, Corenswet co-starred as the veteran police investigator David McDougall, whose work in 2016 helped uncover years of corruption in the Gun Trace Task Force of the Baltimore Police Department. 3940. Also in 2022, Corenswet co-starred as Jake in Look Both Ways, a Netflix original romantic comedy drama film. 41. Corenswet then co-starred as the projectionist in Pearl, a feature film directed by T.I. West and released in theaters by A24 in 2022. 42-43. In 2024, Corenswet co-starred with Lucy Boynton, Justin H. Min, and Austin Crute in The Greatest Hits, a film for Searchlight Pictures written, directed, and produced by Ned Benson. 44. Described as a musical time travel romance, the film premiered at the 2024 SXSW Film and TV Festival. 45-46. Also in 2024, Corenswet played Scott, a member of a team of tornado chasers, in Twisters, a disaster film. 47. Corenswet also appeared alongside Natalie Portman in the Apple TV series Lady in the Lake, directed by Alma Har'el. 48. In a November 2019 interview, he expressed interest in portraying Superman and hoped to eventually see a bright and optimistic version of the character after providing positive feedback about the dark and gritty tone in Man of Steel, 2013. 49 in June 2023, Corenswet was cast as Superman/Clark Kent and his clone Ultraman in the DC Studios film Superman from director James Gunn. The first live-action film in the DC Universe, DCU, it was released in theaters in July 2025 and earned Corenswet widespread critical praise for his performance. 51-52 in October 2024, Corenswet was cast in Jonathan Levin's upcoming film Mr. Irrelevant as football player John Tuggle, the last player chosen in the 1983 NFL Draft. 53. Personal life. In March 2023, Corenswet and Julia Warner were married at Immaculate Conception Church in New Orleans. It was an interfaith wedding ceremony that included both his wife's Catholic customs and his father's Jewish customs. It was officiated by a priest and a rabbi. 54. They have one daughter, born in 2024. In April 2025 it was reported that they had moved back to Pennsylvania to raise her. 55. Corenswet has stated that he was raised Buddhist, but not in a religious sense, and that his family went to a mindfulness retreat center for a week every summer when he was growing up. The DC Extended Universe, DCEU, is an American media franchise and shared universe centered on a series of superhero films distributed by Warner Bros. Pictures. It is based on characters that appear in American comic books published by DC Comics. The DCEU also includes comic books, short films, novels, and video games. Like the original DC Universe in comic books, the DCEU is established by crossing over common plot elements, settings, cast, and characters. Warner Bros. Began trying to bring various DC Comics superheroes together in films in 2002, when Wolfgang Peterson was to direct a crossover of the Superman and Batman film franchises. A planned Justice League film was put on hold in 2008. Initial universe plans were scrapped after the 2011 film Green Lantern was a critical and commercial failure. Warner Bros. Finally established its shared universe with the 2013 film Man of Steel and 2016's Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. This was followed by 13 films and the first season of Peacemaker, a television series for HBO Max. The DCEU's 15th and final film, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, was released in 2023. The DCEU is the 9th highest grossing film franchise and the 5th highest grossing superhero film franchise, having grossed more than $7 billion at the global box office. The highest grossing DC Comics-based film is Aquaman, 2018, which earned more than $1.15 billion worldwide, while several of the franchise's films failed to break even theatrically, being considered box office bombs. Reception to the franchise was generally mixed among critics and fans. A new rebooted franchise of films and television series, the DC Universe, DCU, was released in 2024 and was created by James Gunn and Peter Safran, who were appointed CO chairman and CEOs of DC Studios in a late 2022 restructuring. Certain DCEU characters, such as Peacemaker, Amanda Waller, and Blue Beetle, will be played by the same actors in the DCU, while the second season of Peacemaker will take place in the new universe. Etymology. Upon announcement of the film series, the universe was commonly called the DC Cinematic Universe, DCCU, by fans and the media, in keeping with the naming convention of the already established Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU. 123 Keith Statskiewicz, writing for Entertainment Weekly, jokingly coined the term DC Extended Universe, DCEU, in an article about Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice on July 1, 2015. 4-5 This term and the abbreviation DCEU quickly spread among the press and fans who took it as the official name of the franchise over the following years. 6-7 According to Vulture writer Abraham Reisman, DC confirmed to him in September 2017 that the term was not used internally and they did not consider it official. 5. In 2016, as part of DC Films Presents: Dawn of the Justice League, both Jeff Johns and Kevin Smith referred to the franchise's name as being the Justice League Universe. 8 During the DC Films panel at San Diego Comic-Con 2018, a video banner displayed the words "Welcome to the Worlds of DC," after showcasing some upcoming films. As a result, some media outlets interpreted this as DC officially naming their shared film universe as the Worlds of DC, 910. But in March 2020, Jim Lee referred to the franchise as the DC Extended Universe at C2E2. 11. The franchise was officially titled DC Extended Universe when the Warner Media streaming service HBO Max launched the following May 12. Following the appointment of Peter Safran and James Gunn as heads of DC Studios, Warner Bros. Discovery, created from the merger between Warner Media and Discovery, Inc., referred to DC's film and television series as part of the DC Universe, DCU, which some media outlets interpreted as a rebranding of the DCEU. 13. Development and history. Main article, Development of the DC Extended Universe. In 2002, Wolfgang Peterson was set to direct a Batman vs. Superman film from a script by Akiva Goldsman 14, but the project was shelved by Warner Bros. To focus on individual Superman and Batman projects. 15-16. In 2008, a planned Justice League film directed by George Miller entitled Justice League Mortal was placed on indefinite hold after it failed to secure tax breaks for filming in Australia. 17-18. Man of Steel, a reboot of the Superman film series released in 2013-19, was intended to launch a shared universe if successful. 2021. Following the film's release, Warner Bros. Announced a follow-up entitled Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, 2016, establishing the DCEU. 22-23. A slate of 11 DCEU films was then announced in 2014. 24. In 2016, Warner Bros. Established DC Films after Batman v Superman did not meet Warner Bros. Box office expectations and received negative responses from fans and critics. The division, led by Jeff Johns and John Berg, was to oversee production and form a cohesive creative direction for the DCEU. 25-26-27. After the failure of Justice League, 2017, Johns and Berg were replaced by Walter Hamada in 2018. 28. The DCEU expanded to television with the release of the first season of Peacemaker, 2022, on HBO Max. 29. Discovery, Inc. completed its acquisition of DC and Warner Bros. Parent company Warner Media in 2022, forming a new company named Warner Bros. Discovery, WBD, with David Zaslav as CEO. Zaslav sought to overhaul the DCEU, and began searching for a creative leader akin to Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige to lead DC's film and television projects. 30. James Gunn and Peter Safran were subsequently announced as the co-chairman and CEOs of DC Studios, the successor to DC Films. 31. In 2023, the duo unveiled their slate of 10 DC projects which were to be part of the DC Universe, DCU, a soft reboot and spiritual successor to the DCEU. 32. Films. Films of the DC Extended Universe. Film U.S. release date: director, screenwriter, S. Story by producer, S. Man of Steel June 14, 2013. Zack Snyder, David S. Goyer and Christopher Nolan. Charles Roven, Christopher Nolan, Emma Thomas, and Deborah Snyder. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice March 25, 2016. Chris Terrio and David S. Goyer. Charles Roven and Deborah Snyder. Suicide Squad August 5, 2016. David Ayer, Charles Roven and Richard Suckle. Wonder Woman June 2, 2017. Patty Jenkins, Alan Heinberg. Zack Snyder and Alan Heinberg and Jason Fuchs. Charles Roven, Deborah Snyder, Zack Snyder, and Richard Suckle. Justice League November 17, 2017. Zack Snyder b. Chris Terrio and Joss Whedon. Chris Terrio and Zack Snyder. Charles Roven, Deborah Snyder, John Berg, and Jeff Johns. Aquaman December 21, 2018. James Wan, David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick and Will Bell. Jeff Johns and James Wan and Will Bell. Peter Safran and Rob Cowan. Shazam! April 5, 2019. David F. Sandberg, Henry Gayden and Darren Lemke. Peter Safran. Birds of Prey February 7, 2020 Kathy Yan, Christina Hodson, Margot Robbie, Brian Unkellis, and Sue Kroll. Wonder Woman 1984 C December 25, 2020 Patty Jenkins and Jeff Johns and Dave Callahan, Patty Jenkins and Jeff Johns, Charles Roven, Deborah Snyder, Zack Snyder, Patty Jenkins, Gal Gadot, and Stephen Jones. Zack Snyder's Justice League DE March 18, 2021 Zack Snyder, Chris Terrio and Zack Snyder and Will Bell, Charles Roven and Deborah Snyder. The Suicide Squad C August 5, 2021 James Gunn, Charles Roven and Peter Safran. Black Adam October 21, 2022 How May Call It Sarah Adams Dykeal and Rory Haynes and Sarabna Shervani Beauflin, Hiram Garcia, Dwayne Johnson, and Danny Garcia. Shazam! Fury of the Gods March 17, 2023 David F. Sandberg, Henry Gayden and Chris Morgan, Peter Safran. The Flash June 16, 2023 Andy Muschietti, Christina Hodson, John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein and Joby Harold F. Barbara Muschietti and Michael Disco. Blue Beetle August 18, 2023 Angel Manuel Soto, Gareth Dunnett, Alcocer, John Ricard and Zev Foreman. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom December 22, 2023 James Wan, David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, James Wan and David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick and Jason Momoa and Thomas Pae-Sibit, Peter Safran, James Wan, and Rob Cowan. Man of Steel, 2013. Main article, Man of Steel, film. Zack Snyder, the director of Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and CO story writer/director of Justice League. Kal/Clark Kent, who arrived on Earth years ago as an infant from Krypton, struggles with why he was sent to Earth. Raised by his adoptive parents, Jonathan and Martha Kent, Clark adopts the persona Superman, and learns if his abilities are meant to maintain peace or conquer the world. 40. During story discussions for The Dark Knight Rises, 2012, David S. Goyer told Christopher Nolan his idea regarding how to present Superman in a modern context. 41. Impressed with Goyer's concept, Nolan pitched the idea to the Studio 42, who hired Nolan to produce and Goyer to write based on the financial and critical success of The Dark Knight, 2008. 43. 44. In October 2010, Zack Snyder was hired to direct the film 45 and Henry Cavill was cast as Clark Kent/Superman in January 2011. 46. Principal photography began in August 2011. 47. Man of Steel was released in North America on June 14, 2013. 48. Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, 2016. Main article, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Gotham City-based vigilante Batman travels to Metropolis to preemptively combat Superman, fearing what would happen if the latter is kept unchecked, while another threat endangers humankind. 49. By June 2013, Warner Brothers were fast-tracking a sequel to Man of Steel, with Snyder and Goyer returning as director and writer, respectively. 50. Nolan was involved in an advisory role as executive producer. 51. The sequel included Batman in a main role, and serves as a reboot of the Batman film series. 22. 23. Cavill, Amy Adams, Diane Lane, and Lawrence Fishburne reprised their Man of Steel roles. 52. While Ben Affleck was cast as Bruce Wayne/Batman. 53. Chris Terrio was hired to rewrite Goyer's script. 54. Originally scheduled to be released in July 2015, the release date was changed to May 6, 2016, to give the filmmakers time to realize fully their vision, given the complex visual nature of the story. 55. The film's title was revealed to be Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. 56. Initial filming occurred on October 19, 2013, at East Los Angeles College. 57. Before full principal photography began in May 2014 and concluded that December. 58. 59. Production took place in Detroit, Illinois, New Mexico, Africa, and the South Pacific. 58. 60. After another date change, the film was released in North America on March 25, 2016. 61. Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice is set 18 months after the events of Man of Steel. 62. The film introduces Gal Gadot as Diana Prince/Wonder Woman. 63. Ezra Miller as Barry Allen/The Flash. 64. Jason Momoa as Arthur Curry/Aquaman. 52. Ray Fisher as Victor Stone/Cyborg. 65. And Joe Morton as Dr. Silas Stone. 66. Steppenwolf, who serves as the main antagonist in Justice League 2017, was introduced through a brief scene not included in the film's theatrical release but instead revealed online by Warner Bros. On March 28, 67 before being included in the Ultimate Edition home video release. 68. Suicide Squad, 2016. Main article, Suicide Squad, 2016 film. After Superman's death, a secret government agency recruits imprisoned supervillains to execute dangerous Black Ops missions and rescue the world from a powerful threat, in exchange for clemency. 69. In February 2009, prior to the development of the DCEU, Warner Bros. Was developing a Suicide Squad film, with Dan Lin producing and Justin Marks writing the script. 70. Warner Bros. Announced Suicide Squad in October 2014, with David Ayer as director. 24. Also serving as screenwriter. 71. The main cast included Will Smith, Margot Robbie, Jared Leto, Jai Courtney, Jay Hernandez, Adewale Akinnuye Agbaje, Karen Fukuhara, Cara Delevingne, Viola Davis, and Joel Kinnaman. 72. Principal photography took place from April to August 2015 in Toronto. 73. 74. 75. Suicide Squad was released in North America on August 5, 2016. 76. Suicide Squad is set after the events of Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. 77. Affleck and Miller reprise their roles as Bruce Wayne/Batman and Barry Allen/The Flash from that film. 77. In a mid-credits scene, Amanda Waller, portrayed by Davis, meets Wayne in a restaurant and hands him a dossier containing information on future members of the Justice League. 78. Wonder Woman, 2017. Main article, Wonder Woman, 2017 film. Patty Jenkins, the director of Wonder Woman and co-writer/director of Wonder Woman 1984. Diana of Themyscira, an Amazon warrior who is also the demigoddess daughter of the god Zeus, uses her talents and abilities to help humanity during World War I. In December 2013, Gal Gadot was cast as Diana Prince/Wonder Woman and signed a 3-picture deal which included a solo film. 63-79. The film was announced in October 2014-24, and Michelle MacLaren was confirmed to direct from a screenplay by Jason Fuchs the next month. 80-81. MacLaren left the project the following year in April due to creative differences. 82. And Patty Jenkins was hired to replace her. 83. Filming occurred from November 2015 to May 2016 and took place in the United Kingdom, France, and Italy. 84-85. Wonder Woman was released in North America on June 2, 2017. 76. Justice League, 2017. Main article, Justice League, film. Motivated by Superman's death at the hands of Doomsday, Batman and Wonder Woman assemble a team of metahumans to stop the threat of Steppenwolf, who is in search of 3 mother boxes scattered across Earth. 86. By June 2013, Goyer was set to write Justice League as part of a 3-film deal he signed for Man of Steel. 50. Snyder was confirmed to return as director in April 2014. 87, and the film was announced in October as Justice League Part 1. 24. In 2016, Chris Terrio was revealed to have written the script. 88, and the title was changed to simply Justice League by June. 89. Affleck, Cavill, Gadot, Momoa, Miller, and Fisher reprised their respective roles from previous films. 90-91-92. Filming took place from April to October 2016 at Warner Bros. Studios, Leavesden in England, as well as locations around London and in Iceland. 93-94. In May 2017, Snyder stepped down from his duties on the film due to his daughter's death, Joss Whedon filled his position on post-production, with additional scenes being written and directed by him. 95 Though Whedon was not officially credited for his role as post-production director, he completed enough additional work for a screenwriting credit on the film.